But Justin Trudeau only pretends to stand up for Canada. You know, he's very good at pretending things. He can't even remember how many times he put blackface on, because the fact of the matter is he's always wearing a mask. He puts on a reconciliation mask and then fires the Attorney General, the first one of Indigenous background. He puts on a feminist mask and then fires 2 strong female MPs for not going along with his corruption. He puts on a middle-class mask and then raises taxes on middle-class Canadians. Mr. Trudeau, you are a phony and you are a fraud and you do not deserve to govern this country.
In 10 years of Stephen Harper's government, he chose to stop meeting with premiers and first ministers' meetings. And we restarted that when we took office in 2015. We were able to strengthen the CPP for a generation. We were able to sign historic health accords with massive investments in home care and in mental health. We were able to invest in infrastructure like housing and public transit across the country. And we continued to work with provinces on renegotiating a NAFTA that had everyone playing on one Team Canada. But yes, with certain provinces right now, we're fighting on the defining issue of our time because Jason Kenney and Doug Ford and other Conservative premiers don't want to do anything on climate change. And we need a government in Ottawa that is going to fight them and fight for Canadians on climate change, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Your chance to go head-to-head with Mr. Singh.
Yes. About the Bill 21, we must respect the Constitution. And we won't interfere at the federal level. That's the decision from the provincial government, and that's what we must do. But also, Mr. Singh, you said that you didn't want me to be here on the stage to have a discussion with you. So you're for diversity, but what about diversity of opinion? I have the right to have another opinion about immigration, and I don't know why you're not. You're a leader, and you must try to have everybody on your side. But are you believing in free speech? Are you believing in free speech only when people are saying things that you want to hear?
You're asking the question, let me answer it. After a couple of minutes of this debate tonight, I think people can clearly see why I didn't think you should deserve a platform. The comments that you're making, the type of things you say, there's one thing to say that you disagree with somebody, that's fine. But when you incite hatred, when you incite division,
no, I don't. It's not true. You cannot say that.
You insult a young girl,
I just want to have a debate.
Ask about her mental stability. It shows a lack of judgment. You don't deserve a platform, and I'm happy to challenge you on that because your ideas are hurtful to Canada. I will always work to build unity and bring people together.
Unity for people who agree with you.
Merci, Monsieur Bernier. Thank you, Mr. Singh. We start with Conservative leader Andrew Scheer. You may pick any leader of your choice and ask any question of your choosing. You have 30 seconds.
Mr. Trudeau, you broke ethics laws twice. You interfered in an ongoing criminal court proceeding. You shut down parliamentary investigations into your corruption, and you fired the only 2 people in your caucus who were speaking out against what you were trying to do just for telling the truth. Tell me, when did you decide that the rules don't apply to you?
Mr. Scheer, the role of a Prime Minister is to stand up for Canadians' jobs, to stand up for the public interest, and that's what I've done, and that's what I will continue to do every single day. The way I have worked for Canadians is around investing in them, unlike the vision that you're putting forward of giving tax breaks that help people who are making $400,000 a year, $400,000 a year, more than someone making $40,000 a year. You're offering a $50,000 tax break, which is more money than most Canadians earn, to the wealthiest Canadians with your plan. Of course, we don't entirely know your plan because you haven't released your costed platform yet, which I think is a disrespect to every Canadian watching tonight.
Where's your costed platform?
Our costed platform
Half
came out 2 weeks ago.
Mr. Scheer, you will have a chance to rebut.
Our platform came out weeks ago, and we worked with the parliamentary budget officer, and we have a vision, but it is a different vision than yours because we're choosing to invest in people. You're choosing, just like Doug Ford did, to hide your platform from Canadians and deliver cuts to services and cuts to taxes for the wealthiest.
Mr. Scheer,
that's not the way to grow the economy.
And anybody is free to join in.
You know you're making things up again. Half of your platform isn't even costed. You're making announcements without any details and without any numbers. And you aren't telling Canadians how you're going to pay for it.
You're the one who is hiding your
that
platform
taxes
from
will
Canadians.
go up under your government if you you are reelected.
We lowered
And you talk
taxes
about,
for the middle
we
class
started off talking
and
about
raised
your
them on the
corruption
wealthiest 1%,
and your scandal.
and you voted against
You looked
that.
Canadians in the eye and you said that the allegations in the Globe and Mail were false. You said Jody Wilson-Raybould
They were
never
false.
came to you. You said you never put pressure on her. We now know that those were all lies. You have failed to tell the truth on this
Mr.
corruption
Scheer,
scandal.
the responsibility of any prime minister is to stand up for jobs. And what
And
you're
the
saying is
CEO
you wouldn't have done
Now,
it.
The
so
CEO
here's what we
of
have here.
SNC
If I can
Lavalin
just
said
chime
he
in.
never
Mr.
threatened
Scheer,
jobs
you
or
don't want to go
moving
on and on, I
the
know.
headquarters.
Let me
You
just
are making
stop
that
you for
up
one quick
again.
sec. What we have here is Mr. Trudeau, Mr. Scheer arguing about who's worse for Canada.
We all remember 10 years of Stephen Harper, who did not respect Indigenous rights, did not respect Indigenous peoples. And Mr. Scheer, you're putting forward exactly the same plan that didn't just fail Indigenous peoples, didn't just fail Indigenous communities and their kids, but they also failed to get important energy projects built. We need to keep moving forward in a way that respects Indigenous peoples, respects that there's going to be a range of views, but is grounded in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples that you have consistently blocked through your party's actions. That is not respect for Indigenous peoples. Perry Bellegarde, the Grand Chief of the head of the Assembly of First Nations, has said that no government has done more for Indigenous peoples than this government, and he's one of your constituents, Mr. Scheer.
That's right. He comes from Little Black Bear in my,
He'd love
in my
to talk
riding.
to you.
He's
asked
got
me
my
to
phone number.
give you a phone call sometimes.
I have nothing to learn from Mr. Trudeau, who fired the first Indigenous Attorney General for doing her job. She said that she would do politics differently, and you fired her when she did. And you want to talk about getting pipelines built? You've canceled 2 pipelines, and the one you bought, you can't build. You've let tens of thousands of people in Alberta and Saskatchewan down, and you have failed to recognize that Indigenous communities are hurt by this as well.
I am accepting the fact that I'm going to be attacked for not building pipelines from some and for building pipelines for others.
Not getting anything
and the
done.
balance we need to take
I think we'll be
is doing
talking
the right
about
things
this more.
for the public.
You're doing nothing. Just because you say something over and over and over again doesn't make it true. There's
it would be
no
nice for
Canadian.
you to learn that,
There's no
Mr. Scheer.
Canadian. There's no Canadian that believes that they're going to be better off by paying a carbon tax. You have given a massive exemption to the country's largest polluters, and your plan is already
the experts,
failing.
the parliamentary budget
It
officer
is
points out
failing.
80% of Canadians
based
are
on
better
your numbers.
off
He
under
had to trust
our,
the numbers you
under
gave
our,
him.
climate
Nobody believes
incentive.
your numbers, Justin, because
You do
have
not
misled
want to act
Canadians.
on climate
You
change,
promised-
Mr. Scheer.
there.
You were doing
promised you would
nothing.
lower
Just in case you're
You were
wondering,
reversing the
Canadians. I'm
only
gonna put it
plan
out
we
here.
ever had.
You promised
The
to balance
choice
your budget
Canadians
this
are
year.
facing
Let me put it out here for you.
failed.
Mr.
Do we
Jackson, let's
go
one
back
at a
to
time.
the
Don't have
One
to
at a
choose
time.
between these two.
One at a
You
time.
don't have
Mr.
to
But life
Singh,
is getting more
Mr.
expensive.
Singh and then
My
Mr.
friends, I
Vernon.
want to say this
Yes.
directly to Canadians. You do not need to choose between Mr. Delay and Mr. Deny. There is another option. There is another option out there. We are committed to a real plan that's going to take on the biggest polluters. It's going to take on the powerful interests, because that's what we need to do. If we want to build a better future,
What is your
it's going
target?
to it's going to mean taking on the powerful. That means we're going to have to
You
cut
can
our
take
emissions
on the
by more than
powerful,
half.
But you need to have a
It
plan
absolutely
that
means
is rooted
it
in a
absolutely
target
means we've
that
got to take
saves
it on.
our kids' future.
It means we're going to have to
No
reduce
Canadian
our
I just
emissions
want
by
to
more than
add,
half.
I just wanted to add, I
To do
think
that,
it's
we've got to take
important.
on
It's
the
important right
powerful
now.
at the
People
top.
must
We're
know
prepared
that.
to do that.
People must know that Mr. Scheer and Mr. Trudeau, you're the same on climate change. You want to impose a carbon tax on Canadians, and you want to impose more costly regulation
I think
on
that's the most
businesses,
offensive thing
and
you've said all night,
and you want
Max,
to
that we're the
impose
same on
into
climate
also-
change.
You want to impose also a big
he said a lot
tax
more
on the
offensive
big
things.
emitters. So you're the same on climate change, and
Our
you
plan-
won't be able to
I'd like
achieve your targets.
Seconds with Mrs. Mapley.
Yeah.
I think you and I have to find some common grounds when we get into that House of Commons.
I don't think it will be on GNL Quebec and the fact that you're supporting a project that blows through more of the carbon budget against the will of many Quebecers and threatens the St. Lawrence River.
This
with
is not
shipment.
what I had in mind, and I've provided answers to that. I think the
When-
goal should be down to almost nothing.
Yes.
Not 13, not 16, not almost nothing. And what do you think about this idea of an equalization based on gas emissions? Those who are over the average emissions of Canada pay, and those who are under the average emissions get the money. The incentive is for both parts.
What we have to do is work together, and with all due respect, that was the question I asked Mr. Trudeau. Are any of you prepared to accept the notion of changing status quo decision-making so we form an
Certainly.
internal cabinet
My only requirement
based
is-
The
on,
principle
based
of
on
that-
My
fighting
only
the
requirement is
existential
that I would
threat
not
of
work with
climate
Principle
change.
of that is good,
But I would
Okay,
certainly
that's all
work
that-
with
equalization
others.
does not help.
Ladies,
You won't
will
defend a
allow
woman's
these
right to
types-
choose. You've
That is
dismissed
completely
LGBT
false. That is
LGBT
completely
protections.
false.
You haven't
Millions of
apologized for
Canadians,
your words against LGBT Canadians years ago.
Canadians,
will you
millions
recognize
of
and
Canadians,
apologize
Mr.
for
Trudeau,
that?
Millions of Canadians have a different position on this issue. And like millions of Canadians, I am personally pro-life. And it is okay in this country to have a difference of opinion, something
Yes,
you do not
but
recognize. And it
Canadians
is
need
beneath,
to know-
it is
for a man
beneath the
Canadians
office of
need to
Prime Minister
know
to
that their
demonize
Prime Minister,
people for their
Canadians
views.
need
The
to know that
laws
their
and
Prime Minister-
access
One at a
on
time,
this
please.
issue-
One at a time,
The
please.
laws
me
and
look at
access
that.
on this issue have not changed for 30 years under Liberal Prime Ministers, under Conservative Prime Ministers.
Scheer, let me help you out here.
Canadians need
when
to
I
know
am Prime
that
Minister.
their Prime Minister
That
will be
is
there
my
to defend
position.
them. And
Scheer,
you
let me
have
help
been,
you.
just answered that
you
question.
have been
Let's
not
allow Mr.
unequivocal on
Singh
defending
a
women's
moment.
rights. You're signing the
Mr. Trudeau, this is
nomination
you too. You're
papers
gonna like this too.
of people
you
who
want
want
to
to
nomination
take
papers?
away
How about your
rights of-
misogynist,
No one is
racist
hearing you right now.
candidate in Nova Scotia?
Okay.
Let me
you
help
wanna
you out,
keep
Mr. Scheer.
Can we,
Let me help you out, Mr.
no,
Scheer.
nobody can hear what you're saying anymore.
You will be signing the
A
nomination
man
papers
has
for people who
no
have
place
pledged to
in a
take away
discussion
rights
around
from
women's rights
women.
issues. Mr.
I
Scheer,
know.
let me help you out, man.
You're having a
struggling
mini
here.
debate
You're
over
struggling.
here. Can we bring in
A man
Mr.
has
Singh?
no position in a discussion on a woman's right to choose.
How about
Let's
a
be
woman's
very
right to
clear on that.
speak in a debate?
There we
Be
go.
very clear.
It's been really interesting for most of this campaign to hear a lot of men arguing about what a woman's rights should be, but having all of you, except for Max, participated in the TVA debate where you were perfectly happy to keep women off the stage. I'm the only woman leader of a party. You participated in a debate which did not let our little girls see that there's a chance for a woman in this country to be Prime Minister, to run as the leader of a party. We must be clear as all leaders, and you are not clear, Andrew, that we will never allow a single inch of retreat from the hard-earned rights of women in this country, not 1 inch.
This is
But it
This is a
troubles me that
typical-
you're open to working with Mr.
Yeah.
Scheer.
Sure, I'm
and
open to talk.
Your own MPs could come up with a law against abortion, and you said that you will tolerate it.
This
So
is-
I don't
No, I
understand the
said we
point.
typical
don't
liberal
allow anyone to run
tactic.
in our party
It's right
who
out of the
doesn't
liberal
hold a
playbook.
pro-choice
When they
position.
are in danger of
We
losing
don't-
an election, they
Sorry.
bring forward
This
these
clearly
can't Photoshop
needs
your
more
words.
time. I'm
Don't allow
afraid we don't
me
have
to
more
issue,
time.
Unlike all the rest of you. To avoid catastrophic levels of global warming, we must double our current target. We must listen to science. We must not build the Trans Mountain Pipeline. It's not the last because it gets canceled if we're serious. You can't negotiate with physics. You can't as Prime Minister, you can't as leader of the Liberal Party. There's a carbon budget. It doesn't budge. And that's why it's so heartbreaking for me to look at you today and know you could have done so much more the last 4 years. Please, God, you don't get a majority this time around
From
because
the
you
Rockies,
don't keep your promises.
From the Rockies to the Bay of Fundy, Conservative premiers have gotten elected on promises to do nothing on climate change, and we need a strong federal government to fight them, to make sure that we are moving forward on protecting the future generations from the impacts of climate
But your
change,
goal
Ms. May.
is a target for failure. When you hang on to Harper's target of 30% by 2030,
We
you
are going to pass
predestining
that
us.
target, Ms.
Well,
May.
you better get to double that target, or you never get to carbon neutrality by 2050.
Time is up, Ms.
This
May.
part of
Time
the
is up, Ms.
budget.
May. Ms.
2 weeks left in this election campaign. Canadians can know one thing. At this point, Mr. Scheer, with all due respect, you're not going to be Prime Minister. The question is going to be on a seat count if
I'll
we
put a bet
have
on that,
Mr.
Ms.
Trudeau
May.
in a minority or Mr. Trudeau in a majority. Voting for Green MPs is your very best guarantee, Canada, that you don't get the government you least want.
Mr. Scheer can respond to that, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I'm going to prove you wrong on that, Ms. May.
Well,
You just watch on October 21st.
I'll lay you bets right now.
Mr. Bernier said something that is completely untrue. Under Justin Trudeau, we will see endless deficits, meaning more and more of Canadian tax dollars goes to pay the interest on that debt. We will balance the budget while still preserving
Time
core
is up.
services.
And it's Maxime Bernier's chance to lead this part of the debate. You can